Well, welcome to the Middle Age Bodcast with me, Raging Rich.
And me, T.A. Shalano.
And T.A., in honour of our guests today, I feel like we should rename the podcast to Single Married Brummie.
Yeah, well, but you've got a date next week, Rich.
Don't be giving that away on the podcast.
You may not be single for long.
Don't be giving that away on it.
All right.
She might listen and go, what? It's a bit presumptuous.
Well, the good thing about your podcast is if you stop being single, it's not going to affect the name. If I stop being single, our whole podcast format is absolutely ruined.
Well, we're not going to allow it.
So am I not going to allow you to get divorced?
No, that would be terrible.
There we go. We've made the Canva graphics now. We're not changing anything.
Exactly.
You'd almost have to do it, when they do kind of like either a prequel or a sequel to something and then has a different name. You'd almost have to do that, wouldn't you? It'd be like a follow-on.
It's the only way we can continue.
This is very theoretical. I just don't see a situation where either of these things are going to happen.
You're very practical.
We all need my husband, and she can't find anybody who is up to her standards.
It's true. And I can't keep a husband, so.
Unfortunate. He got away from you.
Yeah, I couldn't get him away quick enough. If you're listening, Graham. We know you are.
Oh, right, okay. Better be careful with this one then. Lively. So, single, married, Guiri. And there was a story that I've struggled to get for the pronunciation of that right. He was telling me off. The point where we had to work out how I could remember it in my head. And the only way I could do it was Richard Gere. Guiri, because I kept saying it wrong. I was Guiri. I was never getting it right. So single, married, Guiri, or soltera, casada, Guiri, apparently is the Spanish translation.
It is indeed.
I'm fluent in Google Translate. How did it sort of start and sort of tell us about the title?
Well, we went out one night in August.
We went out in the afternoon.
We did, one afternoon in August, and suddenly the sun went down. And I had this idea in my mind because my mother died in June and everything was just really fucking depressing. Sorry, am I allowed to swear? Anyway, I did. Live on Channel 4. Everything was just very depressing. But at the same time, there are other things that just weren't that depressing. And I thought, you know what? Being married is actually quite funny. It's actually like there are funny things to it. And Tara's single life is extremely funny. So maybe we could like create something where we would just talk about the funny aspects of life and the fun aspects of life and kind of make fun of life a little bit. So we sat over a chocolate milk filled with creme de menthe, and single married Guiri was born because we both live in Spain, and the definition, we'll say, of a Guiri is a white foreigner.
Yeah, it's a non-brown foreigner. So the bar that we were sitting in when we had our after 8 chocolate milk was delicious, by the way. And then we had a Bounty one. Was it Bounty?
Yeah,
with the coconut liqueur in it.
Malibu.
Delicious. Malibu and chocolate milk. The bar that we were in was literally full to the rafters of Guiris, like Guiri Central.
Not a Spaniard to be seen.
Barely nary a Spaniard to be seen. And so, yeah, it was. I don't know. It just kind of all came together, and then we're like, we'll make a podcast. We didn't have a name. We started recording without a name. I think the first one we didn't have a name. Did we ask ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Or did we think about ourselves? We did, yeah. Yeah. So we did previously have a podcast with a third, and then that, for artistic differences, we stopped doing that. So then when we started this one, I think we were already quite kind of in the zone of we know that we can chat to each other endlessly. Like, we know it's not going to be difficult for us to kind of get that started. So we just hopped in.
What kind of feedback have you sort of had to doing this from the Guiri community or anyone else, really?
We've had people say like it's like listening to two people having a private conversation, which is always lovely. I love getting those kind of messages. It's like I feel like I'm being like let into your friendship group. I feel like I've got a kind of seat at the table, and that's always really fun.
And we also got a message the other day to say that a Guiri couple living in Malaga were changing their entire way of speaking, and suddenly they were referring to Marbella as Marbs at all times.
At all times, yeah. We're influencers now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that's where it all came from.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you. So I can't even remember how we kind of found each other on. I think it was on Instagram.
I mean, I assume hashtags podcast.
But yeah, it's I've been listening to a few of your episodes. It's been really interesting hearing about the life in Spain and some, especially obviously because I've been on dating apps and trying to meet someone, and sometimes when I hear your stories, I'm just going, that's really mad. But I've got sort of crazy stories about some.
That's where you're doing it wrong. Now, I am the married one, so I don't get as much of an opinion, but I feel like Tara goes on these apps just for the fun and not necessarily to meet someone specifically. So maybe you need to like get less specific and she'll just show up. So
that might be the plan, I think.
I'm not going on them just to entertain you, Jessica. You know that.
Strangely, we actually did a dating episode recorded last week with a woman as well, which we're going to be going out now, I think, in a couple of weeks. But so that was quite interesting, and then sort of leading into this conversation.
Like
so
with
we
dating expert?
No. Just someone we kind of, someone I know who's around our sort of age range. So it was getting sort of their perspective, and then obviously Rich's perspective, and then I'm obviously sat in the middle as kind of the like you were saying there with the married one, and it's a little bit more difficult, but you're just trying to kind of counterbalance the conversation.
You're peering in the window looking in. It's like Tiny Tim at Christmas.
I feel like the reason dating stories work is because the other single people are like, oh my God, yes, me too. And the married people can go, so glad that's not us. Be a little bit smug about it. It works on all levels. I did the same thing when I was married. Oh, it's awful. I'm so glad I don't have to do that.
The counterbalance to that is, of course, you could be sat on the sofa looking at your significant other going, oh, you're doing my head in. I really wish I was the one going on the apps. For the benefit of my own marriage here and Mrs. Shalano, if she listens to this, that's not how I feel, dear. 10 years of happiness. May it long may it continue.
Here's to 10 more.
I always have to defend Mrs. Shalano, don't I? I always have to. Your poor wife. I have to defend her from some of your madness. She made a mistake. She's living with it. That's it.
Thank you, Beth. Now you lie in it, Mrs.
We do obviously joke sometimes about her on the podcast a little bit and different things, but no, I think she's enjoyed us doing the podcast because she gets me out of the house as well more. Now it's like, right, yeah, you go to Rich's on Saturday and do these podcasts. It sort of gives her a break from me as well.
Well, like we said yesterday when we were recording, men need a hobby. Husbands need hobbies.
Yeah, and then
hobbies and interests. It's very important.
Yeah. And tasks.
I think the thing with men as well is that a lot of, if you don't play golf, which obviously is a big thing for men, what do you do? So men that don't play golf, you definitely need to find something else, or fishing's another one, which again, neither you are interested in golf or fishing. So this is kind of more up our street.
Golf is very basic.
I quite like golf. I don't mind golf.
Walk around for ages with sticks.
It was like 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon, walking around, hitting something with a ball, or coming and sitting in Rich's house doing podcasting. So you kind of, it's a different type of hobby. And then on my other sort of hobby tomorrow is I'm at a writer's retreat working on my second book and doing that. So again,
nice.
She's out of the house again.
What kind of book is it?
So I recently released a thriller novel called The Doctor's Hidden Patients, which was a bit of a lockdown project for me. And then, just sort of released that recently. I've been working on a sort of a second thriller book it's not a direct sequel, but it's going to kind of link back. So that's my other sort of hobby. And that's where the T.A. Shalano is my pen name, basically. So, when we're kind of doing the podcast, it makes sense. Yeah. It makes me sound like I'm a proper sort of, famous people have stage names. I've sort of really got a stage name now. That's kind of where that sort of comes from. But
you'll be trying to give him the hard sell of the book later, like you did last week. You can't be doing that to every single guest on the podcast.
I can't keep selling the book to guests.
In fairness, I asked the question. I opened that door. That was on me. I was hoping he'd say something like, I'm writing erotic fan fiction from Lord of the Rings or something.
It's just like a fast-paced sort of thriller. So by all means, have a look on shalanobooks.co.uk and you'll see.
I didn't even get his little link in there. Go on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well done, you.
I'm learning the art of sales. I was never down as a salesman, but
There is a chap down in our local village, and he and his wife have started up like a home delivery. He used to work in the Indian restaurant and he left, and now him and his wife are doing the thing. And he is so hot on his sales. He's so shameless. Like if you like one of his pictures, he's straight into your DMs going, I see you liked that. I could deliver that on Wednesday. Shall I put you down for one? I'm like, obviously me being very, very English, I'm like, I can't possibly say no. I'm like, thank you so much for asking. Yes, please.
45 euros of curry every Wednesday because she liked a video of his dinner.
Wow.
Because I've got no boundaries at all. That's it.
Then I have often, because we're in a WhatsApp group with this guy for just to see what his different menus are every week. And he says, his Monday menu, his Friday menu. Nobody wants to get excess messages in a WhatsApp group. So I have always gone to the side chat with him directly to order what I want. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. That's noted. Can you please put that order in the WhatsApp group as well?
It's like the social proof thing on websites where you see people are buying. It's like that, natural on WhatsApp. He's incredible.
He's fab.
He sounds like exactly the sort of sales person I need. Get him to sort of, take a book out with, and sell that while he's delivering.
And you'll have a delicious dinner as well.
A delicious dinner followed by a good book.
Yeah,
That's a great tagline. That's a great tagline.
I'm on shallanabooks.co.uk because I am the organised one, so I'm always just fact checks,
So she's a fact checker.
You're on it now?
Yeah. This is what she's like.
The bull. Where did the bull come from? That's a very Spanish imagery, very Spanish symbol.
Birmingham, boring.
What?
She's never been to much of England.
Oh, right, sorry. There's me thinking that was a universal thing. So obviously the Birmingham's very famous for the bull ring, and it's got the Birmingham Bull outside the Bull Ring shopping centre.
When you say bull ring, is it like a bull ring like I know a bull ring, or
Not as in the Spanish sense. No.
Is it a huge roundabout?
No, not now. No, it's all kind of been redone and like a modernised sort of shopping centre type thing now, from how it used to be when it was the old sort of markets and dating back centuries. So yeah, there's a long established history to it, but it's nothing to do with Spanish bullfighting. But yeah, if you can by all means Google the bull ring and then the history of all of that. But yeah, so there's a bull that sits outside the shopping centre, which is quite famous. And then Birmingham had the Commonwealth Games in 2022. I don't know if you're aware of that, whether that made it to Spain, probably not.
It did make it to the internet, so yeah.
It would have made it to the internet, yeah. But obviously, Spain not being in the Commonwealth, I suppose it wouldn't have been a thing that was probably particularly.
To be fair, we barely noticed the Olympics, so.
And I'm absolutely, I'm shocked and horrified, Tara. It must be because we don't have TV, because we are quite the athletes.
We are quite athletic, that's true. Fitness is our actual life.
But they also then did, for the opening ceremony for the Commonwealth Games, they'd built this huge mechanical bull. I mean, honestly, if you get to Google any of this, it's really brilliant what they did.
I'm on Google Images as we speak, and it is quite fascinating.
And then what they did with it was, after they'd used it at the ceremony, they dropped it in the city centre, and it became this massive tourist attraction where everyone wanted a photo with the bull. There was hundreds of people stood there at any given time of day having photos taken, and then they didn't know what to do with it after the games had finished. And in the end, it was going to be taken apart. It was taken to some yard and was just going to be scrapped for parts. And there was a huge uproar. As you can't do that,
wasn't there about it?
And they've saved it, and it's now in Birmingham New Street train station.
Oh, cool!
They actually put it in the concourse area, so when you arrive, there's this massive bull. It's there. It's the mechanical bull. But if you were able to find the footage from the opening ceremony, it was brilliant at what they did with it. It's really impressive.
They've named it after Ozzy Osbourne as well now, so it's Ozzy the Bull.
But of course, for our Spanish listeners, and of course, it has got then the connection to Spain, hasn't it? The bull.
I don't think we've said the word bull as much on our podcast about Spain as you have said in the last 6 minutes in this one.
I've sort of weirdly, I've just done a massive tourism thing for Birmingham as well, it seems. Yeah, come on, everybody. Come and have a look at the bull in New Street Station if you haven't already.
You might need to think of a catchier tagline than that, I'm going to be honest with you. Come on and have a look at the bull.
It became pretty famous.
It became a big part of Birmingham.
I think nobody really saw it coming either, because I remember when they moved it They moved it overnight from when the ceremony had been, and they sort of dropped it in the middle of the city centre. And I remember I was going into work the next morning, and I kind of walked past, and there was already quite early a few people hovering about. But then by the end of the day, honestly, you're talking like hundreds of people thought this was, fascinating. You're going into, public transport. They'd be like old women going on the phones going, I'll be with you soon. I want my photo with that bull. It was honestly became this sort of phenomenon that nobody really saw coming. But that's where the whole homage to my homeland is.
The bull imagery
is the bull within the logo for the books.
Interesting.
Yeah. All worth googling.
It's
quite
absolutely.
interesting.
It's 100% worth having a Google of it. You just find out lots of random things about Birmingham. Probably never thought you'd be doing today.
The whole bulling thing in Birmingham is it's a centuries-old thing with the markets. You're talking hundreds of years, genuine history of all of that. I know it's all been modernised now, but yeah, it is quite fascinating actually. But anyway, we're back to Spain.
So, when did you move to Spain, and what brought about that move?
Well, I moved back in 2008 as a very young, fresh-faced 20-year-old who I had done Spanish language and literature and political science at university, had to go and do my final year in university, and realised I didn't actually know any Spanish. So I looked for ways that I could go to Spain to learn Spanish and then come home, do my exams, and then move on and become a lawyer, which is where my destiny ultimately did not end up, but that's where I thought it was going. And I moved to Spain, and within 6 weeks I was like, oh, this is good. And I really just didn't want to go back. So I did have to go back, finish my degree, and I've had various absences from Spain, but I've been in Spain kind of most of the years between 2008 and now. So that's how I ended up here, for educational purposes.
And still every day is a learning day.
Every day is a learning day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I came, how long have I been? I left the UK in 2010, but I did 5 years in Portugal, and then we came down. I was very resistant to coming to Spain, especially the Costa del Sol. So I was on a different coast, still in the south, but a different coast, because I was very much of the mind, like if I moved to the Costa del Sol, it'll be full of people in kiss me quick hats, having English breakfast, like not learning the language, not integrating, like the worst.
And I'd love to say that that's like, a perception that isn't real, but it is real.
Yeah. That's what the whole reason we've got a podcast, because there's little enclaves of them everywhere, like these just little groups of people who just want England in the sun, basically. One of my favourite quotes of Jessica's is, people either move to Spain for Spain or for the sun. And it's true, there's lots of people who just move here for the sunshine, and they're not interested in learning anything. Like, I'm not saying you have to become a mad historian on the history of bullfighting or anything, but learn to communicate a little bit and stop trying to have dinner at bloody 6:30. For the love of God, just stop it. So then I came across to Malaga just after lockdown. After lockdown, I was, like many people, I think, I itchy for a move, but I really only moved like 2.5 hours down the road. Huge move.
So there's where the Guiri thing then is almost a bit of a homage to that, isn't it? And again, when I've been to Spain, I have seen that where, that you do have that sort of expat community, and there is literally no influence of Spain whatsoever, I suppose, is the thing, isn't it? So do you embrace Spanish culture more then?
We literally try to avoid people who idolise the Cumberland sausage at all costs. Like, I will hear accents in the street and just be like, oh.
I make my children speak Spanish to each other, lest people try and make friends. I'm like, shh, quick, switch.
I will actively try and avoid.
Jessica's ear for English accents isn't the best.
I have no idea.
No idea. She just hears English people. We all sound the same to her. But yeah, as soon as I hear a hint of Yorkshire, I'm off.
Why specifically Yorkshire?
I'm just kidding. I love it. Especially my ex-sister-in-law. Right, Emma?
We have to do a disclaimer now, Rich, where we love the people of Yorkshire, some of our favourite listeners.
I think we're better just... The names have been changed for your purposes.
No, sometimes I hear an accent and I'm like, it's it's kind of pure. There's a lot of do you know that TV show The Only Way is Essex, or Towie, or whatever they call it?
Yeah.
Just down the road from us, one of them opened a bar, and so there's quite this kind of like gathering of. They all look like peacocks. They're all vastly not natural colours. Their skin isn't a natural colour, and there was a woman queuing for ice cream wearing literally nothing but see-through diamonds, diamantes, and I was like, what on earth is happening? Then I realised it's next door to that bar. So there's like these little groups of strange creatures come from Essex who've moved here.
With particularly pearly white teeth.
Turkey teeth.
The turkey teeth is the big thing as well.
I said to Jessica this week, I was like, what happens to... So one of our friends posted a picture on Facebook and it's a guy in his 50s and all of a sudden he's got this like pure white set of teeth. And I was like, what happens to them? What happens to all of the turkey teeth? When people, when all these people die, we're going to get little boxes of ashes with teeth still in them. What happens to them? Horrific.
That's a really good point. What?
There's so many of them, the turkey teeth. Like, as someone who dates, I mean, I don't date people who are that old, obviously. But yeah, there's so many people in their profiles with the teeth.
Taking it back to then where you're obviously originally from, Jessica, with Ireland, I recently was over in Dublin a few months ago, and the taxi driver had it done. You know, this kind of guy in his 50s.
Love you about going to Torquay to get your teeth done.
Yeah, he was. We were just... It was like he looked like the least person ever who would have done it. Do you know? It wasn't. You know, like so you're talking about the sort of Towie and some of that. You go, okay, I kind of get, and the celebrities. This guy, you know, he's driving his cab around Dublin, and he got these. You just go, this is bizarre.
The face has to go with the teeth. If it doesn't go with it, like I am very much a champion of Botox, have been for many, many years, and that is a preventative thing because down the line you don't want to be the weird, wrinkly old lady with pearly white teeth that doesn't match. You've got to make the face match the accessories.
She's very good at planning. Very good at planning.
Yeah, there's two ways of going with that as well, isn't there? You've got the kind of the people who are trying to sort of preserve some kind of form of something or other, which I think you can probably see we don't bother. Here's me having to go at somebody about turkey teeth. You know, I'm sure my dentist would say you really need to sort out your own teeth. But yeah, but it is a weird thing that you have the people who embrace getting older. So I think one of the things we were talking about with a guest last week was the program Schitt's Creek. Right, my wife and I loved that program, but we were really interested in the fact that Catherine O'Hara, the actress, has really embraced aging, where a lot of women don't, or you know, it's not being, you know, that's an interesting thing as well. Where I think where people go, oh, this is how I was going to turn out.
It's not for me.
No.
To be fair, I said so. I've had grey hair since I was about 19, thanks to my mother's lineage. And I said to a friend, I think in the summer, I was like, maybe like I've got a friend who's got really cool grey hair. It's like long and it's really stylish and it looks great. And then I said to my other friend, like, I'm considering getting getting my hair grey and seeing what happens. And she was like, oh, no, because you have to be ever so put together. Otherwise, you're going to look like a witch. Like, if you're not going to get up and put your face on, then that grey hair is going to be like super aging and going to look like an absolute hobbit.
It depends on the type of grey. It depends on the tone of grey. Like the salt and pepper thing doesn't work. If you've got
it has to be all grey,
absolutely wonderful. It also depends on texture. Like there's a lot that goes into a grey hair situation, and by the time you've found out, it's too late and everyone's seen it.
True. I like that. Well, you know where people get like that one bit of grey. That's really cool.
Yeah,
so I could just bleach it. I could just do that.
Yeah,
you could be like Rogue from X-Men. Then you're going to say I don't know what the heck you're on about, but that would look quite cool, man.
No, I have never seen the X-Men, actually. I'm planning to do a movie marathon this afternoon. It's very rainy here. And one of them was one that was tabled was the X-Men, but it got vetoed. We're doing Oceans 11, 12 and 13 if you're interested.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not bad films.
It will be unsurprising as nobody flies or has superpowers in them that I have not seen them.
Well, we won't get on to your film choice taste. We argue about this quite a lot, and you know, it becomes a big thing. So, people who loves the superhero films, and I really don't so much. You know, and he keeps telling me that if it wasn't for those, all of the cinemas now would be closed because these are the films that make the money.
They do. They're the big blockbuster ones.
All now on streaming services and don't do anything at the cinema. So, in one sense,
superhero films have gone rubbish now. That's the problem.
Have they? I only started during lockdown, like most parents. I bought a subscription to Disney Plus, and we watched all of those. What's the ones with Captain America and Thor in? What are they called?
Avengers.
Yeah, I watched all of the Avengers, but like I looked up which order you had to watch them in for it to be date order right.
Yes, yeah. Did
so
you just watch the Avengers films, or did you watch every single film in between?
The ones like the Iron Man ones and the Thor ones, I watched all of those.
Oh, fantastic! You see, This
Okay.
is what you need, Tia. You need a Disney Plus subscription and go through the entire MCU.
I really don't.
I wasn't expecting to love them. I wasn't expecting to love them, but I really did. But then I had like a side chat with a friend that was quite unhealthy about Iron Man and Thor, so let's not go into that on the podcast.
So what are your plans now for, you guys going to do a second season of Single Married Guiri? What plans have you got in store?
Netflix special next, I think.
Absolutely Netflix special. Like, I don't know if you've seen Making It in Marbella, but listen, I feel like we could do better.
I haven't seen that. What is it?
On Netflix, it's about a real estate. Oh, I mean, Nikki Marbs is all over it. She's seen.
I love her.
If you go to her stories, you'll see them all right. Home Run Brokers, real estate agency in Marbella, and they have basically done a Selling Sunset offshoot in Marbella. It's Swedish.
Love that.
So you want to do that?
I mean, whatever they offer us.
I mean, it's surprising.
I feel like he could also be for the Housewives franchise.
Yeah.
Real Housewives of Inland Malaga. Feel like it has legs.
Yeah, that's true.
Single Married Guiri Malaga?
Sure.
Sure. And it's just always a surprise to me that there's not a film crew following us around, documenting our every move.
Do you think it would go well enough, if you actually had the Soltera Casada Guiri, would the Spanish go with it? Do you think that, there could be something that would be translated to the wider...
To be fair, I think they would, because they are not a fan of the Guiris that we're not a fan of either. So I feel like
we're all laughing at the same people.
You're all laughing at the same people. And then the people that we're laughing at don't actually realise that we're laughing at them. And that's where it starts to get like borderline mean, but also you reap what you sow, people.
Yeah.
So that's your niche then, because you're almost the anti-version of some of these things. You're offering the alternative view, I guess.
True. We could be the anti-Marbs.
We are the conscientious Guiris.
We are conscientious. That's not quite as fun as anti-Marbs. I'm sticking with anti-Marbs.
It's good though that you've done that. You're embracing the culture of Spain and you're taking all of that in rather than like you said, there's some people that just go for the sun and it's like, I'm living my life the way I lived it in the UK or wherever, and you're actually then going over there and you're embracing that culture. And with that, what kind of differences have you encountered in the culture with how it is in the UK versus in Spain?
I think obviously we have very different experiences because I've got 2 kids and Jessica doesn't have any. She has animals. So I found like from a family perspective, I remember the first time I took my eldest back to the UK, I think we were on the tube or something in London and no one said hello to him. No one interacted with him. Whereas here, I mean, my kids are both blonde, so they do kind of stick out a little bit. But here, everyone wants to say hello to the children. No one's got a problem with kids being in a restaurant. I mean, mine don't run about like absolute horrors in restaurants because I raised them, not dragged them up. But follow me for more parenting hacks. But I feel like the inclusivity, like the kids being out in the parks at night time, being out on the street, having a level of freedom that they wouldn't have in the UK. If I still lived in the UK, they wouldn't have half the lifestyle that they have here. And that's a huge difference for me.
I suppose they don't also have the experience really of living in the UK, those children either, have they? Because they're going to have spent, if you've been there since 2010, they're going to have grown up entirely in that culture. So they also don't have that connection back to the homeland as well, I suppose, in that sense. Do they almost see themselves as Spanish?
It's a tricky one. They don't really see themselves as anything. Which is my fault for being a bit of an anarchist, and Jessica's pained expression will tell you that we've had a discussion about that. They don't feel Spanish. My eldest feels more English than anything because he feels apart from his Spanish kind of classmates and colleagues. And a lot of that is kind of because we're missing the extended family piece here, and where that's so strong. He's always had this kind of sense of not quite belonging because everyone's talking about the grandparents and the aunties. What did you do at the weekend? Well, every Sunday we go for lunch with the grandmother and every Tuesday we have lunch at the auntie. And he's never had that. And that has been a difficulty for me, kind of emotionally as a mother, to kind of think, oh my God, they're missing this big thing.
Is there anything either of you miss about the UK or Ireland?
Oh, I miss pubs. There is nothing like an Irish pub.
Pub food.
Chatting to strangers. Like, the Spanish are really, really warm and really, really inviting and really, really kind. But there is nothing like going to the bathroom in a pub in Ireland and somebody saying, oh, I really like your dress. And you're like, thanks very much. Like, that just...
Have it.
Yeah.
I'll swap with you.
There are Irish pubs everywhere in the world, but I suppose what you're saying is that none of them are the same as actually being in Ireland.
There's a pub in Ireland and then there's an Irish pub.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's not the same. So, like going home for Christmas is always a lovely time. Or I mean, going home any time of year, really. This year I won't go back for Christmas, but I will go back in early December. And it is lovely to just be surrounded by also people that understand your humor, people who understand your sarcasm, that it is a joke and it's not serious.
I think that's the thing as well with kind of trying to date in a different country, like missing that the cultural references and stuff. It's really, first of all, my Spanish isn't good enough to be as funny as I am in English. Hashtag humble. But the same, like the cultural references, or like you make a joke from an old TV show and it's kind of, it's just gone. So those things I miss.
That isn't just the cultural thing. That we've realised that's an age thing, which obviously does feed in with our podcast as well. Because I was talking to somebody who's a bit younger than us earlier this week, and we made reference to, you remember the Alanis Morissette song, Ironic?
Yeah.
And something happened, and I went, "Oh, that would be perfect to update the lyrics to the Alanis Morissette song." And this person who's in their 20s sort of looked at me, going,
"Oh no!"
Hang on a second. I feel like that's a song that's a classic. That's
Everyone
just somebody.
knows that.
When I looked at it, you realise that the song had been released before they were born, and suddenly something that you feel is only a relatively short time ago. When you look, it's like that's 30 years ago now. So you get that as well. The cultural references where you think everybody knows something,
Yeah.
and then
They just don't.
The young and it's like when we were young. That's how we used to perceive them. When older people used to talk about stuff from the 60s, and so you go, "Oh, you're so old."
You say that though.
And now you're there.
I know loads of 60s music because my dad's into it. So I know loads of Motown and stuff like that. You'd expect
a bit more respect, quite frankly, young people. Come on now.
Yeah, surely their parents knew the Alanis Morissette stuff, like Ironic, and you'd grow up listening to it a little bit.
I feel like that's just a lack of education. I'm not sure that's an age thing.
You need to take it up with this young girl's parents. Where's her mother?
But it was the comment as well that you said where you mentioned Alanis Morissette was this Canadian singer.
Yeah.
And in your colleague's response was, the only Canadian singer I've heard of is Justin Bieber.
I was going to say Avril Lavigne, but okay, we'll go with Bieber.
Oh, I was thinking, isn't Bryan Adams Canadian?
Bryan Adams.
Thank you very much.
So we then Googled.
Well, I went with Avril Lavigne.
And said like Celine Dion and all that. But actually, again, it depends upon the era that you're from.
Yeah.
Because some of those, again, are really very 90s. Celine, Bryan Adams, all the rest of it. And then, you look, Justin Bieber obviously has been very prominent in that person's lifetime. So it is weird how that comes across sometimes.
Well, in the 90s, of course, Bryan Adams hijacked our charts for a whole summer with that Robin Hood song.
He did. But that's now, 32 years or 33 years ago, I think, something like that. I mean, that's where it's a bit frightening. So when you talk about dating then in Spain, do you deliberately avoid the expat community?
Well...
No, she's picky.
It has to be though. I couldn't get naked with the wrong kind of Guiri. I just couldn't.
I mean, you got a message yesterday from a guy with very basic errors in his.
He said, "What did he say?" He sent me a message and it said he used was instead of were, and I could instantly hear what accent he was going to have in real life. And then I noticed that she's following his business account on Instagram, which is like a mobile bar thing. Looks amazing. And I said, "How do we know this one? Is it through Instagram?" And she said, "I saw his van in the car park of the local shopping centre, and it's all in English." And so she follows people like that so that we can laugh at them on the podcast. And lo and behold, he popped into my Facebook Messenger. He was like, "Oh, I seen you in a bar last week." I was like, "Oh my Lord, did you?"
This definitely should be a programme. I wish we had contacts at Netflix. This does sound to take off. Actually, I think I'd enjoy watching this. I hate all those other shows that you're talking about, so I think I'd enjoy listening to this.
I think. Well, I did consider going for a glass of wine with him this afternoon.
Do you think he might be the guy with the teardrop tattooed on his face?
What if it's him? So he said, "I saw you in this bar. Now, the last time we were in this bar was a couple of weeks ago. We popped in for a glass of wine.
And that's when I took the photo of the van, so I know it was that night."
Oh, I see. And we ended up with 3 bottles of wine, a glass of Cava as a palate cleanser, and then we moved on to passion fruit daiquiris and porn star martinis. So I don't know what I was up to. I could have been anyone.
But isn't the teardrop tattoo meant to be synonymous with somebody who's murdered
That's
people?
what I said. Exactly what I said, my friend.
We don't know because his face is not on his Instagram. So
half of his face could be on the other half.
It's very much a bar that is, well, it's owned by second-gen Guiris. So like her children of immigrants to Spain, who are neither one thing nor the other. And a lot of Guiris go to it because they're greeted by their own accent, so they enjoy it. So we spent a lot of time sitting as close to the door as possible so we can see exactly who comes and goes.
We're basically little dickheads. We sit there with our glass of wine.
And we're like, look at them.
We even make, like, this is what I know your listeners can't see it, but I found this, and it's a list of topics that we made sitting at the bar. I found it whilst I was clearing my thing, and it's barely legible. It says, are your kids rude? Gym guy, vodka and Actimel, apples in Andalucía, which might be the name of our biography, who knows, and something else, Dutchies from Alara.
Oh, they were the ones who came straight over to us and they were like, are you enjoying the wine?
Because this is the thing with other expats, they come at you and they want to talk to you, they want to interact with you.
Especially when there's a couple who you can tell have definitely been married for a long time. They go out for dinner or lunch or drinks and they just kind of sit, usually not facing each other and staring out.
Yeah.
So they were watching us for a good half an hour and long enough to see that we ordered a bottle of wine, absolutely hated it, and asked the bar to please take it back and change it.
And we poured some back in the bottle and gave it back again.
And then they came over to us completely unannounced when they were leaving to ask what was wrong with the wine.
Yeah. You didn't like the wine. We were like, I mean, Dutch people are very direct. I've learned that much from living in Spain. Dutch people are incredibly direct. What was wrong with your wine? You didn't like it. We were like,
just not to our taste.
it's not our bag.
I always thought the Dutch were a bit more easygoing than that.
No.
Dutch are wild. We met a friend of Tara's at just in the street at a
beer festival
thing that was in her town. And he was going to the bar. And did he offer to get us a drink, or did you say go and get us a drink? I
think I asked him to get us a drink.
Yeah, and he came back, put the drinks on the table. Now, bearing in mind, we're talking about little beers in Spain that are like $1.50. We're not talking about an £8 pint here. And about 5 minutes later, he looked her straight in the eye and said, "Did you say thank you?"
I was like, yes, I did.
And then you doubt yourself. Did you say thank you? I think we did say thank you. Why would we not?
I always say thank you. I'm very well mannered. I'm like, you? We left shortly after.
I was just thinking, because I've noticed on your Instagram, you post sort of the stories sometimes, and it is a bit like, you're talking about you should have a Netflix special. I do think when you mentioned that, you filmed some of this stuff on your Instagram, you should just film like a pilot episode and try and sell it.
Do we know any producers?
Maliki, you're up. Get the camera out. You're following your mom around.
He'd be mortified. Are you kidding me? Die. He finds me embarrassing enough as it is. Imagine if he had to deal with me being on the television. Never leave his room.
He'd be like, right, I'm getting out of this. I'm going to go to the UK. Get away from you.
I'm moving in with my dad.
Well, listen, I know. I mean, it who knows? It might gain traction.
I'd watch it. That would be
It
brilliant.
would be an asset to Netflix or HBO Max, Disney Plus, whoever's listening.
We're
I was going to say that's it. You got to get your reach out to as many the competitors as you can.
I'll check my bank statements and see how many subscriptions I've got to the streaming services. Reach out to all. I think I've got all of them.
They give you a free subscription sometimes as well if you've got a show on there.
Listen.
On there once, yeah, laughing then.
I would like a free subscription for all 4 of my friends as well.
That reminded me of a story I heard recently. You know the comedian Ramesh Ranganathan?
Yeah, love him.
He referenced the fact that, or despite the fact he's on shows and stuff on like Sky TV, that he still has to pay a subscription. And when he referenced the story was that he had a problem and they came out to fix it at his house, and he said, "My photo was on the van." The guy that came to fix it and I'm still paying for a subscription. I thought that story was really quite good. So if he's still having to pay, we're going to really struggle.
I mean, has he asked?
Why is that not in his contract? Yeah. Ramesh, speak to your agent.
Yeah.
My grandma used to say, if it's worth having, it's worth asking for.
Exactly.
We're probably going to have to edit this out for legal reasons now.
It's fine. We're just wondering, do you ever think that you'd come back to the UK and to Ireland? Do you think you'd ever go back, or?
It's a bit forward. We've only just met.
You know what I mean. Don't single people, Tara. I'm just trying to,
She saw that as a sort of you massive flirt.
It was.
This is what happened last week. Somebody thought I was asking them out. I wasn't. I was just asking a question.
Unless I'd said yes. If I'd said yes, it wouldn't have been a joke, you see.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, absolutely not.
No.
The last time I came back was end of February 2020. I came back and I went all the way to Leeds. I was doing a talk at a friend's day thing. What do you call them?
Conference thing?
Conference thing. Yeah. I was giving a talk about, it was an empowerment day for women, basically, but kind of within the online business world where I work. And she's asked me to speak. I was like, what am I going to speak about? So I'd really like it if you'd run through like your Tinder escapades. So I tried to tie in my dating escapades with female empowerment. Basically what I did was put all my conquests into a Microsoft Word cloud and tell tales about them and be like, girl power, swipe on hotties, woo. So I went back to the UK then and it was just, it was grim. I mean, it was Leeds also and it was in February, so that didn't help. But it was just, everyone seemed a bit miserable. It was grey. Everything cost a fortune. Like, no.
Yeah, I mean, I went back to Ireland in September and I don't think I would be going back to live anytime soon. I mean, everyone is just in wild amounts of debt. Everything is grey. And not even just like from a weather perspective. Like, why are the buildings grey, the roads grey, the infrastructure's grey? I was at the train station. I was like, why is everything so grey? Why can't we have some colour?
Yeah.
I mean, it was even, the weather was lovely in September. It was great, but everything was still just grey. Everything costs at least €400. You just leave your house and suddenly boom, 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 €400 gone. Like, it's nuts. And insult and injury and all of that, whatever that phrase is, everyone has gone sober.
Yeah. Sobriety is like the new vegan.
0-0. I'll start my evening with the 0-0. What? Why? Why are we doing that?
Why? Have a glass of water. You must.
Hydrate.
Yeah.
I think so. What we take from that is, again, we've slight disclaimer for our listeners. Is Yorkshire got attacked again there? I think we said it was Leeds and it was awful. Again, for the people of Leeds that listen to the podcast, we love you.
Because it's February. It's like geographically, it was grim.
And I think the summing up of the 0.0 thing taking off is quite interesting. But essentially, what we've just got there, as if you don't mind me classing it like this, is an Irish person saying they don't want to move back to Ireland because they're not drinking enough anymore.
Yeah.
It's quite.
It's just weird. Like, everybody's changed, so everyone's in debt. The weather is shit and sober. What am I getting out of this?
Nothing. Misery.
It does seem there's way more adverts now for this 0% alcohol. It's as if, well, we can't sell our actual booze.
Yeah.
Let's sell the 0% and hope that they go, this is all right. I'd rather have it with some booze in it.
Now, I have a friend who is she's gone slightly more health conscious than she used to be. And she is now mixing 0.0 Guinness with normal Guinness. She does a half-half, which I think is quite interesting.
That's a strange idea.
I wouldn't do it, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is the 0.0 Guinness is not a bad one because some of the 0.0 substitutes are really not that great. But the Guinness one is not bad, but it's not like a...
What's in that can?
I think quite like a normal pint of Guinness. Sorry?
Oh, I thought it was a can of beer. I was like, what time is it in the UK?
Oh, no.
That would be ironic for this conversation about nobody's drinking anymore. If Rich was sat there with a beer, that
Perfect.
would be...
Sherry time.
We've got 4 minutes before. I haven't even got any sherry in the house.
Oh, I mean, you're such an amateur at this stage, Tara.
I nearly bought sherry yesterday and I don't know why I didn't. I had a wave of sobriety.
Well, you had wine from your Tinder guy, didn't you?
He wasn't a Tinder one. He was the little fella who left the wine outside my gates.
That's one of my favourite things about Tara's dating life. She will inevitably find people, whether it be online or not. It won't work out for whatever reason. She won't just ghost them. She will tell them very clearly, like, I don't think this is going to work out or whatever. And then that's kind of done and dusted and they won't go away.
They just don't go away.
They do not go away to the point where she will block them. So they'll just show up at her house. It's wild. Like, I don't understand.
It's lucky I have electric gates at the end of my driveway. Because I'm very fancy. No, because I live in the countryside. But yeah, I went out. There was the older guy who does like the trees and the vegetables and stuff where I live. And he said, did you notice there's bottles by the gate? I was like, obviously I was driving at such a speed I didn't notice anything by the gate. And he said, yeah, there's bottles of alcohol by the gate. Okay, so off I went to look at them. And sure enough, this guy who I'd been on, did I go on 1 or 2 dates? 1.
2 dates, I believe.
No, he took me for a Chinese. It was that one.
Chinese 20 miles away, not like there isn't a Chinese restaurant at the end of your road, but okay.
Literally behind my house. And I knew it was from him because it's the vineyard of his boss in Rhondda. But there was no note or anything, just a red and a white wine outside my gate. I'd seen the bottles before in his caravan. So I knew it was there.
At least it gives you some great stories, I suppose, for the...
That's exactly why I don't take a vow of chastity. Thank you for asking.
On that note...
Well, thank you both for joining us for this episode.
Thank you for having us.
And really enjoyed chatting with you. It's been really good to get to know you a little bit and to learn about your podcast. Do you want to just, for our listeners out there, give them any place they can find you, what platforms you're on, and how they can find Single Married Guiri?
We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. Where else are we on?
Amazon. Basically your favourite podcast platform. Put in Single Married Guiri.
Single Married Guiri. Guiri spelled Guiri. And we're also on Instagram. Messing about.
I think if you go to Instagram, there's a link to where you can listen in the bio. So head to Instagram because that's also where we do our ad hoc, like that little video from the Ferrier where I started talking about short men on horses. You wouldn't get that if you weren't on Instagram.
You would not.
My tiny mounted love.
You also wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get that if I wasn't the one in charge of Instagram.
True. It's true. So come and find us on Instagram, basically.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We do, when we end the episodes, we ask the guests just to give sort of the final sign off. So over to you two if you want to say anything to our listeners out there.
Basically, I'm very jealous of your podcast title and I wish I could think of something hilarious around that, but I can't. So I'm just going to say, would you like to say goodbye, Jessica?
Goodbye, Jessica.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.